The evening air settled softly over a quiet street on the edge of town. Houses lined the road in neat rows. Trees stretched long shadows across the pavement as the sun slipped behind the rooftops. Everything looked peaceful, but something felt tense beneath the silence. In the middle of the street stood a little girl in a purple dress. Her name was Leon. She was only 7, yet her hands trembled as she pointed toward a row of heavy motorcycles parked beside the sidewalk. Her small frame shook with fear, but her eyes held a strange mix of courage and urgency. A tall man with broad shoulders and a leather vest stepped forward. His vest carried patches and symbols that made people keep their distance. His name was Ryden. He led a group known across the town. People feared them, avoided them, and whispered stories about them. But none of that mattered to Leon tonight. Ryden looked down at her with caution. He asked, "What are you doing here, little one?" Leon's voice cracked as she answered, "You must check under your bikes, please." The men behind Ryden exchanged confused looks. One of them muttered that she might be mistaken, but Ryden sensed something real in her fear. He stepped closer. He asked, "Why do you want us to look?" Leon swallowed hard. "I saw a man put something under your motorcycles," she said. "He was talking on his phone. He said he would bring you down tonight." A heavy silence fell over the street. Ryden's expression tightened. The description she gave matched someone he had noticed before, someone who watched his group too closely. "Are you sure about what you saw?" Ryden asked. Leon nodded slowly. "He was near my grandfather's place. He knew your names. I heard him." Ryden turned to his men. "Check every bike. Do not touch anything until I see it." The men moved carefully. Their boots scraped the ground as they knelt beside the first motorcycle. Within seconds, a voice called out, "Ryden, you need to see this." Ryden bent down. A small black device was fixed to the frame near the wheel, a device that did not belong there. He knew what it meant. Someone was setting them up. Leon stepped closer, frightened by their reaction. She whispered, "I told you the truth." Ryden looked at her again, this time with deep respect instead of suspicion. "You did," he said. "You saved us." One by one, the men inspected the rest of the bikes. More devices, more traps, more proof that someone wanted to destroy them. One rider asked, "Who would do this?" Ryden already knew. He did not say the name out loud, not in front of the girl. He asked her gently, "Why come to us? Why not tell your family?" Leon lowered her eyes as she answered, "My grandfather always said the truth must go to the right people. These are your bikes, not his." Her words carried weight beyond her age. The men stood still as they listened. They were used to being judged, used to being feared, but this child saw them as people, not rumors. Ryden said, "You are brave, Leon, braver than many adults." He turned to his men. "This girl protected us tonight. From now on, no one touches her. We owe her more than she knows." The first hints of night drifted across the sky. Leon had become part of something far greater than she imagined. And Ryden knew this was only the beginning. Night settled deeper over the street as Ryden and his men gathered near the row of motorcycles. The small devices found under the bikes seemed to glow in the dim light, silent proof of a hidden plan. Leon stood beside Ryden, her hands clasped together, unsure if she should stay or run home. But something inside her told her the night was not finished. Ryden turned to his men. "We need answers," he said. One rider replied, "Whoever placed these wanted us locked away or worse." Ryden lifted one of the devices carefully, keeping his fingers off the surface. "This is not something an ordinary person gets easily," he said. "It belongs to someone with authority or access." Leon stepped forward. "I know the man who put it there," she whispered. "He wore a uniform. He talked like he was in charge." Ryden looked at her with full attention. A uniform? He repeated. Leon nodded. Dark blue, with a silver badge. The men around them stiffened. A rider named Blake muttered, "That sounds like someone from the department." Ryden lowered the device and took a slow breath. "This means we cannot trust anyone tonight," he said. "We move alone. We handle this carefully." Leon tugged gently on Ryden's vest. "Are you angry with me?" she asked. Ryden shook his head. "No. I am angry at the man who tried to use you to hide his plan. You did the right thing." Her eyes softened with relief. One rider pointed toward the end of the street. "Someone is coming." A pair of headlights appeared in the distance. The vehicle moved slowly, crawling up the road like it was searching for something. Ryden acted quickly. "Get the bikes behind the fence," he ordered. "Do not leave anything in sight." The men moved fast. Their boots hit the ground in steady rhythm as they pushed the motorcycles out of view. Ryden guided Leon behind a tree. "Stay here," he said. "You are safe." The car rolled to a stop near the spot where the bikes had been. A man stepped out. Tall, well-built, wearing the same uniform Leon described. He looked around with suspicion, searching every corner of the street. Ryden watched him closely. "That is him, right?" he whispered. Leon nodded. "Yes, that is the man." The officer bent down as if checking the ground for something. He glanced around again, then spoke on his radio. "They are not here," he said. "They must have found it." Ryden's eyes narrowed. He whispered to his men. "He knows exactly what he planted." The officer stepped back into his car and drove away without noticing he was being watched. Ryden waited until the car disappeared. Then he stood up and faced Leon. "You were right to come," he said. "This man is dangerous. We cannot let him hurt anyone." Leon held her breath. "What will you do now?" Ryden looked at the empty road, then at his men, then back at the brave little girl who had changed the course of their night. "We find proof," he said, "and we show the truth before he strikes again." Leon's voice was small but steady. "I want to help." Ryden hesitated. He saw her courage, but he also saw her youth. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You already helped more than you know. For tonight, you stay safe. We take the next steps." The wind moved through the trees as if carrying a warning. Something big had started, something none of them could ignore, and Ryden knew the only way forward was through the truth Leon had brought them. The night grew colder as Ryden and his men gathered behind the fence with their motorcycles hidden from sight. Leon stood close to him, her eyes moving between the shadows and the empty road. She felt the weight of what she had seen, and even though she was young, she understood that danger moved quietly. Ryden knelt beside her. "You did everything right tonight," he said. Leon looked down. "I just didn't want anyone to get hurt." "You prevented that," he replied. The riders began examining the devices again. Blake spoke first. "These are not simple trackers. They have coded chips. Someone planned this carefully." Ryden nodded. "He wants us blamed for something. He wants the town to fear us more than ever." Another rider, Mason, stepped closer. "Should we confront him?" Ryden shook his head. "Not without proof. If we go to him now, he will twist the story. We need more than suspicion." Leon listened quietly. She then said, "He went to my grandfather's shop earlier. He looked around like he was searching for something." Ryden turned to her. "Your grandfather's shop? When?" "This afternoon," she answered. "He asked questions about the bikes. He asked if you visited the shop often." The men exchanged uneasy glances. Ryden felt something tighten inside him. "He is building a case," he said. "He wants to connect us to anything he can find." Mason spoke again. "Then we need to know his next move." Ryden agreed. "Tomorrow we follow him. Quietly. We see where he goes, who he meets, and what he plans. Leon raised her hand slightly. I know where he keeps his files, she said. Ryden looked surprised. How do you know that? I used to see him at the station, she replied. My mother works near there. He keeps a tablet with him all the time. He writes everything in it. Ryden stood still for a moment. If that tablet exists, it may hold the truth. Leon hesitated before speaking again. He leaves it in his car sometimes. He did that today. Blake stepped forward. If we get a picture of what is inside that tablet, it changes everything. Ryden looked at Leon with firm eyes. I will handle the tablet. You stay far from this. But Leon shook her head. You will need to know where he keeps the car. I can show you. Ryden saw the determination in her face. It was not stubbornness. It was courage. The same courage that brought her to them in the first place. He sighed softly. Only if you stay behind us and do not approach him, he said. Leon nodded. I promise. The riders prepared to move. Engines remained silent. No headlights, no noise, only shadows shifting across the fence. Ryden leaned toward Leon. We go at dawn. The station is quiet then. Fewer people, more chances. Leon whispered, What if he knows we found the devices? Ryden looked toward the dark road. He suspects it, he said. That means he will rush. That means he will make mistakes. And we will be there when he does. The wind carried the scent of the night, cool and sharp. Leon wrapped her arms around herself. Ryden placed his jacket gently over her shoulders. You are part of this now, he said, but you are also a child. Your safety comes first. She nodded again, accepting his words but still feeling the weight of the mission. The riders formed a circle around Ryden. Their voices dropped. Their expressions turned serious. Tomorrow would decide everything. And as the night grew still, Leon realized something. She was no longer just a witness. She was the reason the truth had begun to rise. Dawn arrived slowly, washing the town in a pale gold light. The streets were quiet, and most people were still asleep. Ryden and his men gathered near the old warehouse on the edge of town, preparing for what they needed to do. Leon stood with them, her small hands tucked inside Ryden's jacket sleeves, trying to stay warm. Ryden looked at her and said, Remember what we talked about. You stay behind us at all times. Leon nodded. I will. I only need to show you where he parks his car. Blake pointed toward the road. The station is quiet at this hour. We can get close without drawing attention. Ryden turned to his riders. No engines, no noise. We walk. They moved together, silent shadows crossing the empty streets. Birds had just begun to sing, unaware of the tension rising through town. Leon walked beside Ryden, guiding them through narrow paths she knew from visiting her mother's workplace. When they reached the small police station, they stopped behind a row of tall bushes. Ryden crouched and looked over the leaves. There, Leon whispered. She pointed to a dark blue patrol car parked alone near the back door of the station. Ryden studied the car carefully. Is that where he keeps his tablet? Yes, Leon said. He always locks it in the glove box. Mason asked, Are we breaking in? Ryden shook his head. No, we do not break anything. We take pictures and leave everything untouched. Blake stepped forward. I can pick the lock without damage. Ryden nodded. Do it fast. We do not know when he will return. They waited until the parking lot felt still. Blake moved first, crouching by the car door. His hands moved with precision, quiet and controlled. Within seconds, the door clicked open. Ryden signaled Leon to stay behind the bushes. She watched with wide eyes as Blake opened the glove box and retrieved a small black tablet. Ryden held it gently. It has a passcode. Leon whispered. He uses his badge number for everything. Ryden typed the digits. The screen unlocked. A soft glow lit his face. What he saw made him pause. Pages of notes, names, dates, photos of people from town, reports written by the officer, each one twisting harmless actions into suspicious behavior. Raiden scrolled further. Then he stopped. There was a page titled Final Sweep. Under it were the names of his entire group. Beside each name was a detailed plan to frame them using planted evidence. Blake whispered, "He was building a case to take all of us down." Raiden took a deep breath. He wanted us gone. He wanted control. And he used fear to justify everything. Leon stepped closer. "Are you going to show this to someone?" Raiden nodded. "We must, but not yet. If we go too soon, he will deny it and hide the rest. We need everything." Just then, a car engine roared faintly in the distance. Raiden looked up sharply. "He is coming back." Blake hurried and placed the tablet back in the glove box. He locked the car door again, leaving no trace. Raiden grabbed Leon's hand. "Move," he said quietly. They slipped behind the bushes as the officer's car turned into the lot. He stepped out, unaware of how close they had been. He walked toward the station, holding a cup of coffee, humming softly to himself. Raiden waited until the door closed behind him. Then he whispered, "He has no idea we saw everything." Leon looked up at him. "What happens now?" Raiden's voice was calm, but heavy with purpose. "Now we gather proof. Now we protect what is true. And when the time comes, the whole town will see who he really is." They walked away quietly, the morning sun rising behind them. Leon felt something shift in her heart. She was no longer afraid of the uniform she once respected. She understood now that justice was not about badges. It was about truth, and the truth was finally in their hands. The morning deepened as Raiden and his men walked Leon back toward her grandfather's shop. The streets were awake now, but quiet enough that no one noticed the tension following them like a shadow. Raiden kept glancing behind him, making sure they were not being followed. Leon stayed close, her steps steady but thoughtful. Inside the shop, her grandfather looked up in surprise. "Leon, where have you been?" Raiden spoke gently. "She helped us. We brought her back safely." The old man studied Raiden's face. "You look troubled." Raiden replied, "There are things happening in this town that you deserve to know." They sat around the small wooden counter. Leon explained everything she witnessed: the officer, the planted devices, the car, and the tablet. Her grandfather listened with a heavy heart. He turned to Raiden. "I knew something was wrong with that man. He came here yesterday asking questions that made no sense." Raiden nodded. "He is building a story against us, a story he wants everyone to believe." Blake leaned against the wall. "So we show the town the true story," Raiden agreed. "But not yet. We must gather enough proof to make denial impossible." Leon's grandfather looked at her with worry. "You should not be involved in this." Leon lowered her head. "I did not choose it. It happened in front of me." Raiden spoke softly. "She is the only reason we discovered the truth." Her grandfather sighed deeply. "Then I stand with her. I stand with all of you." Raiden appreciated the words, but he knew the danger ahead. "We need the rest of the files," he said. "That tablet has only part of his plans. There must be more, something he hides outside the station." Mason stepped forward. "There is a cabin outside town that officers use for storage. He might be keeping things there." Raiden considered it. If he hides evidence, that is where it would be. Leon whispered, "I want to help again." Raiden shook his head firmly. "No, you already took the greatest risk. You stay safe now." But Leon lifted her eyes to him, steady and calm. "You said truth needs the people who saw it. I saw what he did. I can recognize the things he used." Her words struck him. She was not trying to be brave. She simply understood the weight of what she carried. Ryden looked at her grandfather. If she comes with us, she will not go near danger. She will only confirm items from a distance. The old man hesitated, then nodded slowly. Take care of her. Promise me that. Ryden placed a hand over his heart. I promise. By noon, they prepared to move again. Ryden, Blake, Mason, and 2 others headed toward the wooded area outside town. Leon stayed between them, shielded on all sides. The cabin appeared through the trees, small and abandoned-looking. Ryden studied it from afar. No patrol cars, no lights. This is good. They approached quietly. Ryden tried the door, locked. Blake examined the frame. It was opened recently. Marks are fresh. They circled the cabin and found a cracked window in the back. Ryden climbed through carefully and unlocked the door from the inside. The room was dim. Dust floated in the sunlight, cutting through broken boards. Shelves lined the walls, filled with boxes and old files. But one metal drawer caught Ryden's eye. It was newer, clean, recently used. He opened it. Inside were folders labeled with names from the town. People he knew, people who trusted the system. Leon stepped closer and pointed. He brought these to the shop last week. He said he was checking on old cases. Ryden pulled one folder out and opened it. False statements, faked reports, signatures that did not match. This was the proof they needed. Blake whispered, "He has been doing this for years." Ryden closed the file slowly. "We take pictures, everything. Then we leave it exactly as we found it." They photographed each page, document after document, until they had enough to expose the truth. Just as they finished, they heard tires on gravel outside. A car had pulled up. Ryden froze. "He is here!" The riders moved Leon behind a shelf. Ryden whispered, "Do not make a sound." The cabin door creaked open. Heavy footsteps entered the room. The officer stood there, scanning the shelves. He muttered to himself, unaware of the hidden eyes around him. Ryden held his breath. They could not confront him yet. They needed to leave unseen. The officer grabbed a file from the drawer and stepped outside again. The door slammed shut. Ryden exhaled slowly. "We leave quietly," he said. "No mistakes. We are close now." Leon followed them out, her heart racing. They had taken a step that could change everything. But danger was closing in, and Ryden knew the next part of their journey would be the hardest of all. The forest grew silent as Ryden and his men guided Leon away from the cabin. They moved quickly but carefully, making sure the officer had driven far enough not to hear them. Leon held Ryden's hand tightly, her breath fast but controlled. She knew what they found was powerful. She also knew it was dangerous. Once they reached a safe distance, Ryden stopped. He said, "We have everything we need. Now we bring the truth to light." Blake looked around the trees. He will realize someone was inside that cabin. Ryden nodded. "Yes, and when he realizes that, he will come after us." Leon swallowed. "What will he do?" Ryden turned to her with steady eyes. "He will try to protect his lies. But we have something stronger. We have proof. And we have the truth you carried from the start." They returned to town before sunset, gathering at Leon's grandfather's shop once again. The old man listened with deep concern as they explained what they had found. He said, "This will divide the town, but it will also free the people he hurt." Ryden placed the photos on the table. "We take this to someone with authority outside his reach." Mason spoke up. "The regional investigators arrive on Fridays. They are not connected to him." Ryden nodded. "That is our path." Leon's grandfather looked at Ryden. "Does he know you have the files?" Ryden replied, "Not yet, but he will soon." The door of the shop opened suddenly. A shadow fell across the wooden floor. The officer stepped inside, his expression cold and sharp. Ryden immediately moved Leon behind him. The officer's voice carried a quiet threat. I heard someone was asking questions about me today. Raiden replied, We learned the truth. The officer smirked. What truth? Leon stepped forward, surprising everyone. She said, The truth you tried to hide. The officer's eyes narrowed. You should not speak about things you do not understand. Raiden's voice hardened. She understands enough. She saw what you did, and we have your files. The officer shifted his weight, realizing he was losing control. You people have always been trouble. This town needs order. Leon looked up at him with courage beyond her age. That is not order. That is fear. Raiden placed the photos on the counter. These are going to the investigators. Tonight, your lies will not survive another day. For the first time, the officer's confidence cracked. His voice trembled slightly. You are making a mistake. Raiden stepped forward. No, we are ending one. The officer backed away slowly, realizing he had lost. He turned and walked out, his footsteps uneven, his plans collapsing behind him. As the door closed, Leon took a breath she had been holding for hours. She said softly, Is it over? Raiden knelt beside her. It is beginning to end. Tomorrow will bring the rest. And it did. The next morning, investigators arrived unexpectedly early. Someone from the cabin had reported suspicious activity near the files. Raiden had been ready. He handed over the photos, the names, the false reports, and the evidence of tampering. The investigators listened, questioned, and took statements for hours. Leon told her part calmly, describing what she saw beneath the motorcycles and what she heard at the shop. Every detail matched the documents Raiden provided. By midday, the officer was in custody. People gathered in the streets, confused at first, then shocked as the truth spread. For years, the officer had manipulated evidence, targeted innocent people, and pushed his own agenda. Now the town could see him clearly. Leon stood with Raiden and his men as the officers led him away. The man glared at them, but no one looked away. Raiden placed a hand on Leon's shoulder. You changed everything. The town began to shift. People who feared the riders approached them for the first time with respect. Store owners greeted them by name. Children waved at the motorcycles instead of hiding. Leon watched it all with quiet pride. She said, I just told the truth. Raiden smiled. That is enough to change a whole town. As evening returned, Raiden handed Leon a small leather bracelet with a silver charm. This is for courage, he said, for seeing what others ignored and speaking when others stayed silent. Leon held it close. Her voice was soft. Thank you. Raiden replied, No. Thank you for saving us. The sun dipped behind the rooftops once more. The street was peaceful again, and Leon understood something clearly. Heroes did not need badges, uniforms, or strength. Sometimes they were small, sometimes they were quiet, and sometimes they were 7 years old.